By all logic, you'd think the town would be around here today, but it isn't. It's a few miles away. Cemeteries are a good place to look for the secrets of history, for the records which were not written down by those who lived the times. Even the names and the dates can tell us something. Most of the graves here are marked by stones from the field. Only a few of the scores of graves here have real tombstones. This one, born in 1796. Arkansas wasn't even explored then. This place is near the center of the state, on the Arkansas River. In the year 1820, it had a population of over 700 people. Its name was Cadron. A couple of miles away, the French were here in the 1770s. Atop a high bluff, a blockhouse made of cypress logs served as a trading post, a home, and shelter against attack from Indians.
Bonjour, Français.
Ayo, crois pas. Et très bien. Bien chancé, eh?
The French here were trappers. They traded with the Indians. A deer hide brought around 15 cents. The Indians loved the French, who shared their wine and liked to fraternize, shall we say. For parts of 4 decades, this trade center flourished. But it wasn't until 1808 that families began to settle here. Cadron became the first white settlement in central Arkansas. Displeased with the remoteness of the territorial capital, Arkansas Post, the legislature considered moving the capital to Cadron because of its central location. But in 1820, a decision was made instead to build a new capital city at the point of Little Rocks, a few miles downstream from Cadron. In subsequent years, Cadron served as a county seat, a post office, and as a stagecoach stop on the Butterfield mail route that stretched from Memphis to San Francisco. But by the 1870s, Cadron was dead. The railroad had bypassed the settlement, and the town literally disappeared.
This bluff has been here for eons. It's a good place to just come and think to yourself.
Guy Murphy learned of this once important community upon moving to Conway as Chamber of Commerce director in the early 1950s. He worked to get the site placed on the National Historic Register, and later was involved with efforts to encourage the Corps of Engineers to develop a riverside park at Cadron. Murphy also organized a successful effort to construct a cypress blockhouse replica on top of the original foundation of the trading post built over 200 years ago.
For a community to really appreciate where they've come from, the people there, they really have to have a way to latch on to something to get the feel of the circumstances, and the replica of this blockhouse that's been built here will help in that respect. These people now can look at this building and visualize that people lived in a setting like this and made their living from the land in this area, the river, hunting and fishing, the trade and commerce that occurred here when this was a trading post. I think if the contemporary people can get a vision of how things were years ago, that they can begin to have some greater appreciation for their ancestry and what our people had to do to get us to the point where we are today.
After the Civil War, tracks were laid for a railroad that linked the state's 2 most important cities, Little Rock and Fort Smith. The civil engineer supervising this effort was Colonel Asa P. Robinson, who did such a splendid job that the railroad company awarded him a small piece of land about 30 miles northwest of the state capital. Robinson deeded a lot back to the railroad for a depot and designed plans for a community to surround the train station. He named his new town Conway in recognition of a family of brothers prominent in state government during Arkansas's infant years. The first residents bought land from Colonel Robinson, with the stipulation that trees would only be removed to build roads. Conway became the Faulkner County seat in 1873, and 2 years later, with a population of 200, was incorporated. In the early days, Conway flourished as a trade center for the farmer. The town's economic base was almost solely dependent on agriculture. Conway was self-sufficient. It had a railroad, and most residents grew their own food. Iron anvils from blacksmith shops rang throughout town from dawn till dusk, mending tools for the planter. The first buildings were constructed of wood. Twice, in 1878 and again 2 years later, the entire town was virtually wiped out by fire. Many of the new residents were immigrants from Germany, Switzerland, and France, settlers who had fled economic depression in Europe. Upon the arrival of these immigrants, there were no church buildings at Conway, and some of the first religious services were held using railroad boxcars. Descendants of the earliest European families migrating to Conway still gather on the Sabbath at one of the city's oldest and most impressive churches, St. Joseph Parish. Conway's image was altered dramatically in 1890 when the Hendricks Board of Trustees decided to move the school from Altus.
As the telegram you received this morning from Little Rock told you, this fair city is the new home of Hendricks College.
Conway was chosen as the new home for Hendricks, which had a student population of 150 and a faculty of 5. Today, this Methodist college has an undergraduate community of 1,000 students and is recognized as one of the nation's leading independent colleges. In 1982, Changing Times magazine called Hendricks one of the 50 best educational bargains in the country.
The effort in Conway, and this is indicative of the way things were done in the 19th century, government...
Bob Merriweather is a professor of history, political science, and education, one of 62 full-time Hendricks instructors committed to the values of a liberal arts education.
If a town in the latter part of the 19th century wanted to better itself, it had to do it without the assistance of government. And here, local businessmen, professional men, bankers, farmers, and so forth, came together and raised a considerable sum of money, some $55,000. The population of Conway itself was only 1,200. So this was a little over $50 a person to get that institution located in Conway. Conway had the things that the Methodist Church was looking for. It was centrally located in Arkansas. It was a small town, not a big city. They didn't want it located in Little Rock with its theaters and saloons and so forth. Also, Conway was located on a railroad, and this was the primary means of transportation, and this meant, of course, that the students could get from their hometown to Hendricks College. And then Conway was dry. They had voted out liquor, and this was very important because the Methodist Church would never have established Hendricks College at any town that permitted the legal sale of intoxicating beverages. At any rate, Conway was successful. They were very excited. This was a small town. It had been in existence less than 20 years. They already had an educational institution.
In 1893, another college was founded at Conway. Central College was a women's school owned by the Arkansas Baptist State Convention. The school closed its doors in 1947, but in 1952, a new institution, Central Baptist, opened as a junior college on the site of the old campus. Now, a 4-year college, Central Baptist is owned by the churches of the Baptist Missionary Association of Arkansas, training students to deal with the experiences of life from a biblical perspective. Yet another university, Arkansas State Normal School, was established at Conway in 1908. Captain W.W. Martin, who was instrumental in obtaining Hendricks and Central College for Conway, joined with soon-to-be Governor George Donaghy and other local leaders in an aggressive recruiting campaign. They outbid several communities, including Benton, Fort Smith, Russellville, and Quitman. The Normal School opened with an enrollment of 83. Conway is often called the city of colleges. 3 institutions of higher learning within the city limits has given it a personality different from any other place in the state. The schools offer cultural, educational, and recreational opportunities unavailable in most cities of comparable size. It would be hard to think of Conway without considering the importance of its schools. But in 1929, the catastrophe known as the Great Depression nearly stripped the city of much of its academic lifeblood. With the crash of the stock market and failure of banks, Conway was confronted with the possibility of losing both Hendrix and Central College. The schools were in grave financial trouble, with little hope of help. Determined to save the schools for the good of the community, city fathers initiated an unprecedented plan to raise revenue by issuing bonds against the municipal electric plant, which was operating in the black. In a short time, $100,000 in bonds were sold to private investors, and the newly formed Conway Corporation had enough money to bail out the financially troubled schools, with funds left over to help the normal school, the public school system, and St. Joseph's Parochial School. Today, the Conway Corporation contracts with the city to operate local utilities, including electric, water, sewer, and cable television. A railroad town by birthright, Conway became double linked with the state capital in 1924, when the Little Rock Highway was paved. Gradually, as time went by, the little agricultural community began to evolve. Its economy became more reliant on industry. The start of this swing began in the 1930s, when Dave Ward opened a small school bus body manufacturing plant at Conway. Many of the workmen were area farmers who took jobs after their crops were harvested. Now owned by the American Transportation Corporation, the company is the nation's second largest bus manufacturer, employing as many as 1,100 people at peak times and capable of producing 33 units in a single shift. Following World War II, a second major industry selected Conway. The International Shoe Company built a plant here that employed nearly 500 people. In subsequent years, city fathers began to recruit a different type of employer, state government. In 1957, the State Civil Defense Agency moved from Camp Robinson to Conway, following a recruiting effort by community leaders. The agency was the first of several major state-supported organizations to locate in Faulkner County. Now known as the Arkansas Office of Emergency Services, the center prepares the public and local governments for response to nuclear, natural, and man-made disasters. In the late 1950s, Conway was chosen over several cities as a location for a children's colony to house and train the mentally retarded. Built on 400 acres of donated land, this center opened in September 1959. Today, 1,200 staff members care for about 650 developmentally disabled adults. About 90% of the clients are classed as severely retarded. In the 1960s, following another successful Conway lobbying effort, the city was chosen as the site for the state's first educational television station. KETS, Channel 2, went on the air in December 1966.
So now we come to dedicate this fine facility. I think the potential of educational television, I think it can be described as unlimited. At least it'll be hard to define the impact that television is having on all of the people at the present time, especially the youth and especially the very young. So we must harness this great force, perhaps one of the greatest that has been invented for the influence of human beings, for good or bad, in all the history of the human race. It must be harnessed for good.
The Conway Station is now the operational command center for the 5-station Arkansas Educational Television Network, broadcasting both public and instructional TV programs. Although never a river port, Conway was nonetheless affected by the development of the McClellan-Kerr navigation system on the Arkansas River. Beginning in 1823, a ferry had operated about 7.5 miles west of Conway. But in the 1960s, the ferry was replaced by a huge dam and bridge. The crossing has long been known as Toadsuck, a colorful nickname given to an 1800s tavern, frequented by hard-drinking roustabouts. As the legend goes, steamboat crewmen would stop at the tavern and suck on whiskey bottles till they swelled up like toads. Every year, this riverbank is the scene for an internationally famous festival known as Toadsuck Days.
The first thing you gotta do is say something nice to that toad right now. You ready, crowd? Let's go! On your mark! Yes, sir! Go!
A weekend event highlighted by toad jumping contests and topped off with a fireworks display. Just up the road from Arkansas's largest city, Conway provides an alternative lifestyle its residents cherish. It is the home of Lake Conway, recognized as one of the most productive brim holes in the South, and Beaver Fork Lake, popular with skiers and recreational boaters. While the town is growing, Conway still offers elements not commonly found in bigger places. A customer strolling along a downtown street can walk into an unpretentious store like Massey's Hardware and find everything from horse saddles to garden seed.
It's a landmark of Conway, or in Conway, because it's been here for some 70, 75 years, and people have been coming here all their life.
Need about half a dozen of those.
We've had a lot of unusual requests and do get them. And of course, very often we can fill them. Rods and reels repaired, or their cookers checked and repaired, or axe handles installed, or on and on. So there's no end to the many things that we do here that you just don't get in a bigger department store.
You better trade baskets up there and get the red bottom.
Purple top, seven top, choking, purple top. I hope that'll do. So there'll always be a place for a Massey Hardware.
It's been years since Conway's economic well-being was solely dependent on the farm. But to this day, agriculture is still an important industry. Every Tuesday, cattle, horses, goats, and pigs are auctioned at the Lewis Livestock Company just off Interstate 40. It's one of the biggest sale barns in the state. Since the development of an industrial park in 1962, city fathers have been actively yet carefully recruiting new businesses. Over the years, Conway has been very selective in recruiting industry in order to preserve the town's environmentally clean personality. Although among the fastest growing towns in Arkansas, it has never been the desire of Conway's leaders to watch their community expand too quickly. The challenge is to progress steadily, building parks and schools that coincide with the population growth.
No other town in Arkansas can match the record of Conway for civic initiative and plain old money raising in order to get institutions in the town which would then secure the town's future.
We can't take anything for granted. Conway is going to grow for sure, but our people must be the guardians of our community and make sure that in the future we have parks like this, we have good air to breathe, clean water to utilize.
Conway will continue to grow. There's no question about that. If it is planned and organized properly, it will still be the desirable city that we see today. If it's not planned and organized properly, it'll be something different.
There are towns that have lost their independent spirit in modern times, having been encompassed into the metropolitan areas of larger cities. Although only minutes from Greater Little Rock, this fate will likely never beset Conway. The two cities are divided by the vast Palarm Creek floodplain, and chances are there will always be a natural break that will preserve Conway's separate identity. This seems a fitting outlook for Conway, a small yet progressive place that takes as much pride in its parks and trees as its colleges and industry.